All right, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, founder of Pro Football Talk, is here at the NFL Combine here in Indianapolis, and just the spectacle of today being the first day of, everything of the Combine taking place. You get all the media requests and everything. How would you describe just the energy and the build-up of this week?
Well, it seems just a little bit bigger every year, and I think that's just the ongoing evolution of the process. You walk in, and it feels – a certain vibe. You walk into this room with everybody set up, and it's like this, it's kind of like Super Bowl light. And then you go into the other room, and I feel like they should have loud music playing or something with the dark lights and the carpet and the
strobe lights.
Yeah, I feel like it's a nightclub over there. It really is, a multimedia event, and it's come so far from how it all got started. It was just a way to get all the players together and have doctors all in one place and do one set of x-rays and one CAT scan and one MRI. And it grew into the Underwear Olympics, as we've been calling them for years, and all the meetings and the interviews. And it's gotten to the point where, more and more coaches think that their time is better spent staying home, because you get pulled in so many different directions when you're a head coach here. You're being pulled to do an interview, and then you're going out and you're having a dinner, and you've got people hounding you for jobs, and it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's just the reality of it. And I think it's going to stay that way until they move it to a place like Vegas or LA, which I think instantly makes it dramatically bigger, not just slightly bigger.
Yeah. I think, optics-wise, Vegas for sure. But I guess, Roger Goodell, some of the other people, they're probably saying, okay, Indianapolis is a walkable city. We all get from hotel to this place within 10 minutes. But I totally understand the way the Combine is starting to grow. It makes sense to make it a bigger spectacle.
Gabe, I think if they would move it to a bigger city where it's harder to get to where you need to be, you would have more coaches say, I'm out, I'm staying home. And they have to balance that, because at a certain point, you got so many coaches that don't come, it takes away from the luster of the event.
But I guess for this Minnesota Vikings team, understanding that teams are still not going to be here today, how does understanding what other teams need affect what the Minnesota Vikings should do when it comes to approaching this 2023 NFL draft?
Well, it's always part of the analysis. What are other teams going to do? What are they looking for? What are our needs? What are we willing to do? Are we plotting a big move? Are we thinking about the future of the quarterback position? There was a lot of steam a couple of years ago about the Vikings maybe taking Justin Fields if he had been there, and that would have changed everything. Now, you've got a different GM and a different head coach, but you don't know what they're plotting. That's the whole idea. Nobody's going to come out and tell you what we'd like to do, because then you complicate your ability to do it. So you wait until they make their pick, and then the smart thing to say is that was our guy all along. That's exactly how we would have mapped it out, and that's exactly who we got. So I'm curious to know what they're thinking about doing behind the curtain to get better than they were this year. And one of the criticisms that I have, and I think it's a fair criticism of the organization, at times I wonder, is just good enough good enough? And is there truly that overwhelming passion that some fans want to get your fingerprints on a Lombardi trophy, even if there's a bill to pay on the back end? Look what the Rams are going through right now. They're paying a bill. And my son's theory is Vikings fans are too nice. that if it was Eagles
Minnesota
fans,
nice is a thing.
they're not demanding enough that the team go out and try to finish the job. Like, you're in the conversation, relevant every year, but then it's time to go to the postseason and lose at home to the Giants, or have the game basically set up perfectly for them against the Eagles in the NFC Championship 5 years ago, and it doesn't work out. So, it's no secret, I've been a Vikings fan since I was 8 years old, 50 years ago, and I bear all the scars on my soul. So I don't care about the bill to pay on the back end. That little 8-year-old boy in me still wants a trophy, just one, just to satisfy that desire, unrequited. Growing up in Steeler country in the 70s, while they got 4, all I wanted was one.
Well, that's the ultimate goal of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and head coach for the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell. But understanding that we got to get that one before we start talking and, kind of being in the conversation of, okay, this is an organization that can win Super Bowls. What position or what position groups do you start at to try to get over that hump?
Well, the defense, I think, needs so much work. And it was unfortunate that Donatel was fired after one season. But the reality is the players need to be better. And there's some older players that don't necessarily fit the 3-4. And it's going to be a 3-4, but it's going to be game plan specific, as Brian Flores, the new defensive coordinator, says. But I just think that offensive line and defensive line are so important to the success of any team. And you look at what the Giants are doing now. Their offensive line's gotten better. Their defensive line's gotten better. So lo and behold, they're a playoff team. The Vikings' offensive line has sneakily and quietly gotten better. The defensive line needs to get, folks who have been following the team for years and think back to John Randall and Chris Dolman, where's that guy that just disrupts? Is it possible to put together a new age Purple People Eaters? It just feels like, it's not that it's bad, but it feels like it needs to develop as a strength. And if they can do that, then the rest of the defense just kind of falls into place.
Brian Flores used the words effort, aggression, and violence when it came to describing what the 2023 Minnesota Vikings defense will be.
It's better than points, yards, and losses, right?
Yeah, that was not the. I guess that was the definition of the last couple of years. But we kind of want to change that. I guess the adjectives this year when it comes to describing the defense. For you, last question: how do you think those adjectives will dictate what the Minnesota Vikings do at the 23rd overall pick?
Well, if the offense generally stays where it is, the defense doesn't have to get much better, but I think, evaluate all the defensive players, take the best available defensive guy at number 23, and if there's a guy you really love and you have to play that game and move up a little bit, then so be it. I still keep an eye on the quarterback position, though, because the Kirk Cousins situation, he's good enough to win, but if the bar is higher than that, I just wonder, are they up to something? Are they thinking about a future beyond Kirk Cousins? And, it would be a hell of a risk if they do it because he can win games for you. But are you content to win games or do you want to win a championship? And I don't mean any disrespect to Kirk when I say that, but I just feel like if the bar is higher, there's a fundamental difference between Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins. And you just wonder at what point that becomes the front burner issue, and could it be something that's going on right now behind the scenes that they're thinking about? I don't know.
Do you think there's a quarterback in this year's draft that the Vikings should, kind of look at and say, okay, we can build this guy up under Kirk?
I'm not necessarily thinking about a guy this year. I'm thinking about making a play for Lamar Jackson maybe. I think it's probably unrealistic, but you know what? When you're picking 23 and you sign a guy to an offer sheet, it's a lot lower than giving up the third overall pick is one of the 2 first-round picks that you'd have to give to the Ravens. But that would create all sorts of issues because Justin Jefferson wants his contract, and how much does it change the offense? But I just wonder what they're thinking from the standpoint of, because we know what teams do, and you're not doing your job if you don't take a step back and look at all your options. What can we do? What are we trying to be? Who are we trying to be? And I just wonder, I'd love to know, and they're not going to tell us, they shouldn't tell us what's really going on.
Well, I guess we have a few more days until, we kind of get a better idea of what this Minnesota Vikings team wants to do, and then we get the ultimate result for the 2023 NFL Draft. But Florio, appreciate your time today.
Great to do this with you. I'm ashamed that I don't get to ride in a golf cart with you. Every one of your interviews I see in a golf cart. Where's the golf cart?
Just make the trip to Minnesota.
Right. I've been there. We'll be back. We love it there.
You heard this from here. You heard this here now. When Mike Florio is in Minnesota, we will get him on the golf cart for Viking Circle in 2023.
Awesome.
Sounds like a plan?
Perfect.
Thank you, Mike.